Start again.
Okay, we are ready to start again. Everybody still hear me? Thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. So welcome to Creator Plus Getting Started Workshop. I'm going to close this. If you have a question, just let me know. How do I make this thing go down? There is a way. It is.
I think three dots over the rain. At the I think hide the video panel or hide the loading media controls. So yeah, there you go.
Okay. So let's get started. The first thing is I gave everybody an email this morning with access to some video files. Not video files, I'm sorry, some files. Did everybody get that in their email?
Yeah, some thumbs up.
Okay, so Star did not.
Yeah, I think I was bad, Kathy. I didn't register for this. Is there a way to share the link or something?
Yes, but
I'm sorry, I should have registered. I know it's bad.
let me just do find the file.
Liz just shared the link on
Oh,
the
yeah,
chat.
I see it from Liz. Thank you, Liz.
Just well, you will have access to it, Doug, but I'm not sure if right here. So let me just move around.
Except for anybody that has the link, so everybody should be able to access it.
Cool.
But if anybody has an issue, go ahead and throw it on the text and I'll work on it with you on the back channel.
Okay, thanks, Doug. You should already have access to it anyways.
Yep.
Okay. So I want everybody to download the files to your computer so you have them handy.
So Kathy, some people are still having trouble and it's not letting me change the rights.
Okay, just a second.
I can't download anything.
I'm going to change the rights.
Okay.
I wonder if there's a faster way to do this.
It'd be to use the general access link at the bottom
Ah,
and just change that to SUNY Oswego or anyone with the link.
oh, I thought you already did that.
I misread what it said.
Okay.
And since I didn't have the content thing, all it was just saying, oh yeah, you can, if you have the link, you can do this, but I missed that it was still restricted, so that was my bad. But now everybody should be able to get in.
When you have the files, just give me a green check mark. Thumbs up. Did you get the files? What's that? Oh.
Looks like it works, Kathy.
If anybody's having trouble, just raise your hand.
I think we're good at this. Oh, Star's still having issues.
Can you let me know what your problem is, Star? Unmute.
I don't have access to the file, or the link is not working for me.
Okay, just a second.
I can't download the text file. I got the image file, but I can't download the text one.
The text file is on a different set of rights. That's actually just her notes for the presentation.
So we're just need the images.
No, that's not true.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what that was. Okay, I'll change the rights on that one.
I thought when I changed it on the folder, at the folder level, it should have changed it for everybody.
Well, not because you changed the rights on the image folder, not the
Oh,
general one. So yeah, I can't change the rights on this document either.
let's go back to Z. Okay. Now my next problem is how do I get the little controllers back?
Escaped.
Thank you. Okay, there's the link to the text file.
I got it now.
Okay, thanks.
It opened.
This will make it easier once we get going. Okay, so we're going to go through making some accordions, tabs, call outs. We're gonna do a carousel and then work on some practices. And hopefully we will be able to cover this all. So with accordions are a way to put some interactivity in your content. It allows you to have drop downs that, let's see. Let me start over. So you're able to format it so you have a description, and then when you click on it, it will expand, and you can have the content in there, and there's numbered and unnumbered. So I'm going to show an example of a numbered accordion. So we have the title, and then when I expand it, we see we have an image, and then the information. Now, we're going to do this a couple different ways. First, we're just going to do it. This is without using any layout. And then we're going to add, we're going to build on it and put a layout in. Maybe I didn't do it in this one, but we will, oh, here we go. Here's, oh, this is using a layout. So we don't have, we have the image, and then we have the text next to it, which looks much better. So that is a numbered, and then the unnumbered is just what it says. So to get going, we're going to so to create an accordion, what you're going to do is, does everybody have a course? I should have asked that first. I did give people access to a practice course, a training course. Does anybody need?
I don't,
something?
where is that? To see if I have access to it.
Okay, you do. So it would be on the home, and it should be, if you just go up to, you select course and just type in training course,
Okay, training course 4.
that might be yours.
Okay, it says inactive.
Yep,
Okay,
but you can get into it, right?
yep, I've got into it. Yes, I've gotten into it. There's a,
I'm gonna say
And then
everybody has instructor level in their own one.
Okay.
Does anybody need access to a course? Okay. So go into your course. And then you're going to click on content, because everything is in the content area. And then either you can create a module or just put it the top level. Everybody okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to be building a page. So we go to the upload/create, and it's create a file web page is what we're going to do to get started. So you're going to give your page a title, and we're going to use the text that we're going to use those images. We're going to build the Ben and Jerry's and the ice cream sundaes. So okay, now this is where I think this is the hardest part, is how to get into the Creator Plus. It's not extremely intuitive, but you go over to this plus, and then you click on the drop down, and it's insert element. Because this is an element. I talked about them yesterday, so everything except for the practice is in the insert element. So we're gonna start with the accordion. And we can do the unnumbered first. This is the default learner instructions. You can change this if you want. So the first thing we're gonna do is we have to have our title for our first, let me just,
Ice cream.
tab title. So we're going to use our file, and the first one will be, we're doing the Ben and Jerry's is half baked. So now we can either put the picture in first or the text. I'm gonna put the image in first, so we find the image, insert image. Go to your computer. Find it. And then add. And you should give this a really good alternate text. And for accessibility, it should say something about the image. So I'm gonna say. Click OK. So you would be creating a new file. I'm just going to say overwrite the existing one. So here it is. I could stick my text next to this, or I could go underneath, right? So in my example, I went down here. And then entered the text. I'm just going to grab the text. You know, it's hard to go from Mac to a PC. I'm going to remove the formatting so it keeps it the same. So there is my first element. Now I'm going to add my next one, which I think we have the Cherry Garcia. And then again, I am going to get the image. Put in my alt text. This is huge. And then put in my text. I think in my example, I shrunk it down some.
I'm having trouble getting the images in because when I go to my download file, it's giving me the whole file and not the individual pictures.
Did you unzip it?
No, I can't seem to get it to unzip.
Well, if you have other images on your computer, you can just
Yep.
stick it in images.
Let's see if I can.
If you're in a Windows machine, Jan, if you click on that and open it, there should be an extract all in the top menu there. When you click
Okay.
on your zipped file.
Yep. Let me see.
I just need to tie my sneaker before I trip and fall. Are you set, Jan?
It's giving me an extract all, but then when I go to grab the photo, it's not.
You'll get a new file.
Okay, let me see if I am getting it now.
So,
The extract is a new folder, so you might want to go back out to your downloads
Okay.
and make sure you're not just clicking on the zipped folder and the actual extract is.
so can you see this, Jan? Maybe not.
See what? What am I seeing?
Hold on, hold on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we're still on the main,
Yep.
When I go to my computer to drop a file, I'm uploading. I see. Okay, there. I think I got it. Let me
Okay.
see. Open.
So there's two, the zipper is a zip one. And the one without the zipper
Yep.
has your images in it.
Yep, I got it in.
Okay.
It worked.
So, when you are ready, we're going to click on preview. And that will, you'll see your two panels. And then we can say insert. And then save. So save and close.
So Kathy, can I ask?
Yep.
How do you know how big to make those images?
Don't worry about it right now, because we're gonna do the layout, and it's actually going to resize the image for you into the window.
Okay,
So we have our page. And we have our two panels. If we click open all panels, we see them. But we have more to add, so I'm just gonna say close panel. And then I want to edit this. I can just go down here and say, edit HTML's web page. And I'm back in. But I don't readily see the accordion has this little dotted frame around it. And if I click on the accordion, I'll get the pencil. And then I can add it up. So we're gonna add more accordions. So we'll click the add accordion item. And then our next one is the chocolate chip cookie dough. So now we're going to put another Creator Plus in here. We're going to add a layout. So we're gonna go to our plus. And this time, we're going to scroll down to layouts. And as I talked yesterday, we have 4 different layouts to pick from. We have the 2-panel, the 2/3, 1/3. So on the left is the bigger, the 1/3, 2/3, and the 3-panel. So this would probably definitely look best if we use the 1/3, 2/3. So here are our panels in our layout. We're just going to click inside the first cell. And then we're going to put our image in. And this was the chocolate chip. And then once you have it in the image in, click into the next cell. And then put your text in. Oops. And then add a new recording item. To do the chocolate fudge brownie. Again, we're going to put in the layout. Our image. The text. And then our last one, which is tonight's cookie dough. Tonight's dough. Or tonight dough. I still think it should be tonight's dough. Put our layout in. Image. And to cheat, I'm just gonna say speculative. Click into that cell and then put the text in.
So how do we save this?
We'll do that next,
Sorry.
okay?
I'm right there with you, Liz. I had a bunch of stuff and I thought I had it saved.
And I clicked the X and it was gone. So we're not doing that again. I'm just gonna wait here until you tell me how to save it.
Oh my
I
God.
did that
Yeah.
several times, so we have to preview it first.
Okay,
You always have to click preview.
okay.
I suspect there's like 3 places you have to save it because I
Then
did it
insert.
once.
Oh, insert. Here we go.
So then it's all in there
Uh-huh.
and we can save and close. And then if we expand our panels, we'll see how, once we put the layout in.
Mm-hmm.
Looks so much better. I missed the thing on the Cherry Garcia when you told us how to make the image smaller. How to adjust that.
So let's just go back.
Okay,
Okay, so we're gonna edit. And then we have to click on this to edit. So if we go down to. We go down to the Cherry Garcia, right?
Yep.
So I mean, you could click on it and then shrink it down, right?
okay, yep,
But what we
gotcha.
could also do is we could put the layout in.
Yep.
And if we just do the layout. Put our image in. Well, I actually don't have to do my computer. Just go to course files, right? Because it's already in there. Edit. So I didn't do anything, right? And it's fitting it into the cell.
Yep.
Let's go down here and copy paste. Right. And then preview, insert, save and close. And now when we go back, we didn't do anything, right? It made it fit into that cell.
Yep.
Okay, so, if we, I'm just gonna go back to accordions. Now, for an unnumbered, or I'm sorry, a numbered one, the only difference is you're going to select,
Numbered.
right, when you go to create. Start. So when I insert the element and I say accordion, I would just select numbered, and then everything else is the same. So for time's sake, we're not gonna do the numbered one, but you have the images and text if you wanna do on your own later. To do the ice cream sundae one. And remember that you preview. And then you insert it, because if you click on the X, it's gone. So, some best practices. So you want this to be an interactive list. You want it to present the content in the accordion. It's a great way to organize content in a list. And it should support the learning process. You know, so it's like you have the list of things you want to say. You could add a little bit more text. You could say what the item is, and then when they expand it, you could give more information. Right, if you were talking about a concept, you could do a word and then a definition. There's lots of different ways you could use this. What you don't want to do is you don't want to hide content. So you want to help learners focus. You want to support cognitive organization. And you want to apply relationships. And you definitely don't want to hide content that you think the learners should know. So, you know, if you put something in there that you really want to make sure that they see, they might not expand on it, right? So be cognizant of that. Don't embed multiple topics into a single accordion channel. And don't put unrelated topics into an accordion, right? So if we were to mix the Ben & Jerry's ice cream with math problems, it would make no sense. So we would want to make sure that we had different accordions. And you can actually put multiple accordions on one page if you wanted to. So are there any questions about accordions? Okay, so hearing none, we're going to go on to tabs. So there's two ways to do a tab presentation, horizontal and vertical. So it's just, excuse me. This is another way to organize content. Instead of using accordions, students, I mean, we all know what tabs are, right? You know, you click on it and you go to the next one. So some best practices first. So tabs can be used for breaking down large blocks of information into distinctive parts, make it easier for the learner to consume and to understand. And you can have multiple information there, right? The accordion or the carousel are good for single points. Tabs are a way to organize multiple sentences or paragraphs. So if you have a lot to say, think about using the tab. You want to keep accordions short. So here's an example of a vertical tab. So we have the tab. And then we click on the next tab. approach, explore, problem solve. And then an example of a horizontal tab with images, and we're actually going to build this one. Because you can do this, you can do the other tabs. So what I'm going to do is go back to tabs. And we start the same way. We're going to create a file, web page. Go to our Creator Plus. Find Insert Element. And pick on Select Tabs. And we're going to do a horizontal. So our first tab, let me just get my cheater going. Okay, so what we're going to do is we have our title. And the first thing we're going to do is we go to our text, go down to our tabs, is we're going to do this graphic one. So the first is the oxidizing material. So in the tab, content, we're going to put the text. And now we're going to say add an image. We need to choose the file. And it is the plane with the circle. Put in our alternate text, but I'm just going to say for time's sake, it's decorative. Save. Close. And then we'll move on to tab 2, which is flammable. Information. Add the image. And then it's the plane. Save. Close. Is everybody with me so far?
Yep.
Jan?
Yep.
Are you with us? I saw that you were talking, but I couldn't hear you.
Yes. I'm okay.
Okay, so now we need to add a new tab item. So we're gonna click on that. And our next one is compressed gas. Title. image. And then we do the add tab. If we had more, we're going to stop at this point. Click on preview. And then it's the insert. And then save. Oh, I'm missing a title.
Sure.
Okay. So when we put that image in, because we clicked on the add the image, it knows it's going to go up here in the tab. If we had used the image in the content area, it would have gone down in here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Hearing none. So call outs are really easy. I'm just going to talk about call outs. So there are 4 different kinds of call outs. There's the standard one and it has no icon. It has a colored border around it and you would want to use it to draw attention to a piece of information. So you want to kind of keep it a sentence or 2. A question call out has the question mark icon and use it to convey inquisitiveness or reflection. Ask a question and have students think about it. The attention is the exclamation mark, and that's intended to alert students to an important point. And the jumbo is larger and has a darker background, and it draws attention to students to an interesting fact. So call out best practices. So, you know, think of some asides, some case studies, news stories or current events, some hints or tips. And you would want to set learner expectations by using these call outs consistently. So, you know, just like we say in some other, like other parts of designing your course, you want to be consistent throughout so students know what to expect. So if you just haphazardly use them, then they're not going to make a whole lot of sense. Other questions on call outs? So I really want to do the carousel before we get into practices. So a carousel is a mini slideshow. And is embedded right into your course page. And students can go forward and backwards in the carousel. And this is an example of a carousel. So I have the image, you can have an image and then description, and I can go forward, and then I can go backwards. So we are going to build a carousel. So again, as we do everything, we're going to start with creating a page. Give it a title. So we're going to go to our other insert options. Go down to insert element. And then click on carousel. So the first thing we're going to do is we can add the image. We'll just go in order here. So we're going to add the image. So we'll do the ice cream. So banana split. We would normally give it a very good descriptive alternative text. Save. Close. Add the title. And now we're going to add our text. For Sundays. So carousels always have to have at least 2 slides where it makes more sense. So we're going to go on to slide 2. We'll add our image. Do the brownie next. Title. And then add my text. So at this point, is everybody with me?
Nope.
Okay, so just like before, to add more, we'll do one more. We click add slide. And we just go through the same process. So I'm going to add the image. I have half large. Title. And then my text. So when I built my 3 slides for my carousel, again, I need to preview because if I click on my X, it's all gone and I have to start again. So I must preview it and then insert. And then I can see if I just scroll through the page that it's there. I'm going to save and close. Now with my page, I can go through my carousel. Are there questions about creating a slide carousel? So you could do this, with a math problem if you wanted to, right? Show the problem and then over here, the solution on how to get it, how to work through it. You do it for many things. Art history, anatomy. Okay, so I'm gonna move over to practices. So I need to. So a few things that you need to know about when you create a practice is, should be lightweight, it's interactive, and it's embedded right into the page. So you can talk about a concept and then have students test their knowledge on it. It is ungraded. That means it is not connected to the grade book, and there is no data that's generated by any of these activities. This is one thing that instructors have said they really don't like, because they kind of would like to see at least some statistics on how students are doing. But currently, that is not possible. There is lots of different kinds of types. I'm just going to show 3, and we'll practice making these 3. But there is multiple select, there's sorting. We'll see when we go in. So we'll do the drop down, fill in the blank. So this would be good to practice, right? So they've read about a concept, a case study above, and you want them to check their comprehension for this. You could you're creating multiple sentences, and then they have to fill in these blanks from a select box. So to do it, you're going to write your question and then insert the answers. And you can have multiple incorrect options, and then your scoring schema. I actually, when I tried doing, I did the all or nothing. There's a different way, another scoring scheme. And I'll show you that in a minute. So I have this example, and we are going to make this one. But you can see, so I have the practices on fire safety. Here's my question. And then here's my text that I wrote. So they have to fill in these blanks. So when I click on this, you're going to select your answer. And then I can check my answers, and I'll see that I got them all wrong. So that I can try again. And then this time I will choose the right ones and say check answers. And I have this overall feedback that I put in. So to do this, okay. I don't know if I got this far. So if you really want to, you could write any question you want. But I'm going to recreate the fire safety one. So again, I'm creating a new file web page. I'm going to go to my insert options, my additional ones. And this time I go down to insert practice. And you can see, so we have the sequencing, sorting, and true false also. So we're gonna do the drop down, fill in the blanks. So first, we have to do our title.
Kathy, can you insert this practice within like a carousel? We don't
I do not believe so.
Okay.
Oh, I can tell you that you can't. Because in the carousel, you don't have the HTML editor, you just have a plain text editor to put the text in. So you can't. You could do a practice underneath the carousel. Does that make sense? Okay, the short description, you're only going to see that. So instructions, so this add root text to the question. So that you have to put in double square brackets, option 1, and then close square brackets. And that's where it knows where the blank goes. So the question starts if you detect. So this is where my first blank is. So I'm going to do 2 right square brackets and then put in option 1, all 1 unit, and then I'm going to close it. Then I'm going to put in my next text. So now I have my next question I want them to answer, next blank. So this is going to be option 2. And then my final statement. And then this will be my third blank. So I'm just going to make a mistake here, so you can see I'm only going to have 1 close. And now I'm going to click on update blanks. And I only have 2 options. Because this is not formatted right. So if you don't have the number of options as you're expecting, the number of blanks, go back up to your root text question and look for the option that is not formatted properly. Do update blanks again. You can also see over here, right? It's showing you what you have. So for option 1, the correct answer is call 911. And then we have incorrect answers. So the manager. And if I want another one, add another incorrect answer. So that's my option one. So if I go over here and click on this select, I'm not going to see anything yet. I'll go over here to option 2, and this was as you leave the building, you should make sure you close all, and the correct answer is doors. And then we have windows. And then option 3. Stairs. Okay. And then my scoring options. Move this down so you can see it there. So we have all or nothing correct inputs, and I used right minus wrong inputs, and that was. But I found all or nothing worked for me, so that's what I'm going to leave it at. Now, there's nowhere here that we see that we can add feedback. But if we scroll up to these options and click on add feedback, we can go down and do overall feedback. And that obviously we could be put in incorrect. So now I'm going to insert. Now I can close this. When I save and close, oh, yeah, it's failed. Have my practice. So the one thing that I learned is that you can, even if you do a multiple choice, and we'll do that next, you can only have one question. So I'm just going to continue with this. I'm going to edit my page. And now I'm going to put in another practice. And just go over here. And do multiple choice. So my title, this is going to be systems. And then, Could add an image. I'm going to put in my answers. Mark the correct answer. I'm going to randomize the order. And again, if I wanted to put in feedback, I would go up to the options and add feedback. I can add a hint. I need to insert and close this. I'm going to save and close. So actually put it on the top where I put it. So if I can try again. Yes, Rebecca.
Kathy, I know these are ungraded and there's no record of them or anything. But inside Brightspace, can you sort of make these conditional, right? A student would have to do this on some page before they could proceed to a different page?
Yes. So you could put it on a page and then you would have to make a condition, well, so you'd have to make yes and no. You can make a condition that they view the page.
That they
But I
view
don't
the
think you
page.
can make a condition that they actually take the practice.
Okay, so you couldn't make it conditional on actually clicking on the practice, nor could you make it conditional on getting the practice correct.
Correct,
Okay,
because there's no data.
okay. Thank you.
Yep. So
I think it's a great opportunity for students to practice something um, or understand a concept before they move on. So sort of a self-practice for
Right.
them to understand whether they're understanding. So
Oh, I agree. I think these things are very
yeah,
fun.
I think this is handy.
Yeah, I think the students will enjoy playing with it. You just kind of want to make it like do the work for you, you know?
Yeah.
So this is an example of fill in the blank. So I would actually have to write in my blank. So I got them all wrong, right? Try again.
Yeah.
So
If you get some of them right and some of them wrong, does it just click which ones are right, which one's wrong?
we're gonna do that again.
Okay.
And then let's say you didn't have it capitalized or something, or you did have it capitalized.
So when you're setting it up, you can say that is case sensitive or not, because
Okay.
you're gonna be putting the right answers in. And you can have multiple ones, so I'll
Okay.
show you, so,
Yeah.
So, I'm gonna try again. So I actually put in here for this that there was two choices. It was either Apollo or Apollo 11.
Yeah.
And then in my overall feedback, I put in the correct mission so they would get that information. So I have covered a lot. Are there any questions? I think, what time do we end, John?
I think 2:30, we don't have anything in here until 11, so.
I learned a lot.
So what I'm going to do, Maggie wrote down everybody who was attending. Okay, I will make sure that everybody who attended has a training course, and I will put this information in here. So you have a template to go back to, and then you can practice on your own too. I mean, the only way that you're gonna learn is to do and make those mistakes, right?
Right.
And I made it so many times. My biggest thing is when I expand the text editor, so I have more screen space. I hit the X instead of the shrink it back down, and then I can redo it. But some of these, I found myself doing some accordions 2 or 3 times, sometimes 4. Because I would click the X when I didn't mean to.
I navigate off of the page like when I don't mean to, and suddenly it's all just gone, right? I don't even hit an X. I'm witchy about hitting X's. But if you just sort of go check something quick, and I think I'm going to a different tab in the browser, but I'm actually going to a different page inside my Brightspace course. It's bad news bears. It's
Yeah.
bad news. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a learning opportunity, right?
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, Brightspace, when you're in edit mode, it could ask you, like, do you mean to navigate off of this page? I guess that would be annoying. Mean to navigate off that page, but it would help me.
That's not a bad idea.
I don't know.
What were you saying, Rebecca? I didn't catch it all.
Oh, I've said we all have our own little quirks, right? I on occasion, when I'm in the middle of editing something in Brightspace, I will navigate off of that editing page and it will let me, and then it's all gone and lost, right? Before I hit save, before I hit, yeah. And so there is a part of me that wishes it would check. Like, did you mean to navigate off of this page before hitting save? Are you sure you didn't want to hit save before you left? Which, I'm sure in other moments I would find annoying, but I was sort of wishing it had that.
Well, when I go to the user conference, I will talk about some of these things. We usually have an opportunity to talk to D2L upper management and the product developers. So we can address these things, but I also, last year I signed up for every usability testing that I could sign up for, because I like to do that, and if we can work through some of these things and show the developers, right, where us novice users, right, us mere humans have problems when we make these mistakes, and how something very simple like a warning can prevent tears and pulling out hair.
Well, yeah, you got a lot of, if you're making a big page, especially, right? I mean, when you do go there, my biggest thing for Brightspace is grading group work. I loved Blackboard that had, you could give a group grade and then individual group members their own grade in one fell swoop. I really miss that. We do a lot of group work, but it's not the case that every group member gets the same group grade, right? For various reasons.
You can go into the grade book and override
Of course you can, and I do, but with 100 students and 20 groups,
Oh,
it would be nice to have every group have
I
the group
understand.
and the people, and you just do it right there, and then you move to the next group instead of in and out to the grade book where you're looking for students by name, right, to override their grade. And then moreover, most problematically, they have seen, many of them, that they got one grade, then they got another grade. They don't like that. It caught, then you have to like, and you can always explain it and justify it because that's the real grade they earned. But if they only just saw their actual grade for the first time and the only time, that would be much better.
Right. Yeah, so the only thing that right now you could do is, hide that grade column from the students so they don't see it until you're all done. But yeah, that's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. The group projects, group grades, group everything on Brightspace needs a lot of work. Which is, which in a world where we think group work is is really wonderful for learning, it's hands-on, it's active, it teaches many, many things all at once, not just content, but also skills. Brightspace could be a lot better on that point, but that's irrelevant. I apologize.
Any feedback on Creator Plus?
I'm happy to know how to use it. Thank you, Kathy. I'm nervous.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited about doing some additions to my courses.
Yeah, as I always said, when we first started with Coursespace and then Angel, and then Blackboard, is, start small. Pick out something that you want to do and work on that. So if you find that adding practices is really important, then focus on that first. And get used to doing that before you move on. If you have this big plan that over the summer you're going to totally redesign a course, you might have chewed off more than you expected. So if you start small, find out that you have more time, then you can move on to the next component you would like to refresh.
Thank you.
Yep, well, thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks, Kathy.
Bye.
Okay, thank you.
So how do we start recording? Control C?
Yeah, you can click on the button right there, and that'll stop it. Yep.